Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Just Seen Motherfucking Podcast. And today, as you've seen from the title, we will be talking about parenting. This is probably going to be one of the most controversial episodes that I probably ever recorded, but all of my episodes are controversial, so I don't really fucking know how this shit gonna go. But I'm gonna let you know right now, if you are a parent and you have the stigma, oh, until you have kids, you need to shut the fuck up. I'm going to need you to shut the fuck up while I talk this shit because I've been a child raised under parenting models, just as all of us have. So I don't understand why we can say that a person with no kids isn't qualified to talk about kids like they haven't been a kid before. Should be weird. But then it ties back into that education episode that I was talking about how the motherfucker said he does not want a nation of thinkers. He wants a nation of workers. That has never left my mind to where I'm like, yo, niggas don't think. When I be saying motherfuckers don't think, I used to say it before in a way that was just like, you know, like I ain't gonna say it was condescending, but it was condescending. It was condescending by nature in this. No, it was condescending by expression, not by nature, because I wasn't intending to be condescending. I was intending to be, appreciative because I'm like, yo, y'all don't think, man. Y'all need to think more. Like that's my thing. I never did it in a way like motherfuckers don't think like they can't. But now I understand. You feel me? So it's like when we get certain positions and shit, we act like the shit that we gone through never happened. Like, for example, when I talk about like medical school science and shit, people will try to, but you didn't finish. Doesn't matter. I still have all the books. I still studied all the curriculum. I still know what was in the shit. Just because, you know what I mean? Like, it never left me. But then it made me wonder. People don't think about shit like that because they don't think. So when they say you're not until you're a parent, you don't know what it's like. The fuck? All you have to do is be a thinker and an observational person to understand what the fuck is like, right? Which is why we're having this episode today. So, if you've seen from the title, we're going to be talking about parenting, but specifically, as you've seen from the subtitle, it is nurturing the nature, right? Mind blown. You hear me say it all the time. I'd be like, yo, parenting does come with a manual. The child. All you got to do is what? Listen. Another podcast episode. It's wild how like I don't know, just shit. When I talk about it, it just sets up for the next one and just layers shit out, right? But anywho, parenting, right? We got to think about what a parental figure really is. For one, this is also the other reason why I'm saying it, because a parental figure does not have to be a parent. You can have the energy necessary to parent something. You feel me? And this came to me because like since fucking 2017, 18, maybe 19. No, since 2018 for sure. For the last 5 years, then it'll be five this year. So for the last 5 years, I've received Happy Father's Day greetings. I ain't got no motherfucking kids, but motherfuckers will hit me up and be like, yo, Happy Father's Day, bro. I'm like, here y'all go with this shit. Be like, nah, bro, you a father figure in the community. Like, and I was like, damn. They was like, yo, like, even if you don't want to call yourself a father figure, whatever the case may be in the community you are, even though you are young, motherfucker, you still giving more game and you know what I'm saying? And actual father shit. So it had me wondering, it's like, yo, how can I be called a father if I don't have a kid? And I just went into the archives and then it came out. Parenting is not about biologically creating a child, right? The purpose of a parent is going to sound real weird. Well, it's not. It's just you're not used to hearing it. But the purpose of a parent is to guide a child into their life. Not the parent's life, but guide a child into the life they're supposed to live. Completely fucked up. Completely fucked up. What happens is the parenting model that we deal with now is based off of children who were raised to relinquish their control to a parent who relinquished their control to their parent who ultimately relinquished their control to an oppressor of some sort or a deity, right? So that child is raised under a parent who has to live through the child and say, you have to do what I say. So the control that I had to give up, I now assume the control over you. And now you have to do what I say, right? Which now makes the parent nurture the nature of the child, right? In a way that is contradictory to the child. This is why, like I say, if you read Sophro 3, why we have the teenage rebellion phase. Also, why we have a midlife crisis, because We were parented, led, or guided into a lifestyle that completely contradicts who the fuck we naturally are. And that's crazy because when you create a parenting model and you make it an education thing, when you create a parenting model, that means you want people to raise their kids a certain way and create a child that doesn't become the individual who thinks, but becomes the, I guess, the minion of the education system who just acts and reacts and hears and shit. And then ultimately, you'll create a system where you can force the parent to make the child into what you want them to make because everything the parent tried to do to please the people before them, they failed at because you can't please anybody when you have an individual life to live. You feel me? You can only please those people who are supposed to benefit from your individual life. But in the duality of reality, we have a benefit and a detriment to our existence in this world. So our purpose and design here is naturally going to have a benefit in one regard and a detriment in one regard when we serve our purpose. And it is our parents' responsibility to guide us into that purpose, but not guide us into a purpose that they failed at. But before we dive heavy into that, be sure to follow me on Instagram at _just_seen_. Be sure to check out my website at IamJustSeen.com to get all things that are just seen. To all those who tip, donate, and sponsor the podcast, you are greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. To all those who would like to tip, donate, and sponsor the podcast, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the podcast. Not this episode, but the podcast itself. And as always, Cash App and PayPal are just fine. And you know the vibes. That's that for this and that's this for that. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive heavy into parenting, nurturing the nature. And don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There, you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the So For Real series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the markets for serious trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So take a quick peek into my world to see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it, and you will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right. Welcome back. And without further ado, we're going to dive straight heavy into this. All right, so largely, there's a plethora of things that catalyzed this episode, but for me, the most important piece that catalyzed this episode was the ideation of nurture versus nature. I hate that people use that ideology, right? They say, um, are you naturally like this? And it'll be motherfuckers use the nurture versus nature reality rather than the nurture and nature or the nurture the nature. But we always use nurture versus nature as if the two aren't supposed to go hand in hand or one isn't supposed to benefit the other or whatever the case may be. And so when we do this nature versus nurture thing, we program ourselves to say, I'm naturally like this. Are you naturally like this or are you nurturally like this? Nurturally is not a fucking word, but I'm coining it today. Are you nurturally like this? Which now goes into things of products of our environment, right? Our environment is what nurtures the nature within us, right? If the environment nurtures the nature within us, the nature is always going to be present. That's when, and this is what I mean by we're either going to benefit the world or we're going to have a detriment to the world naturally, right? You're supposed to have both. For anything that you have benefit with, there's going to be something that is going to have a detriment to. The goal of parenting, in my opinion, is to get you to the point where your nature, you're solidified within yourself. So when you give your nature to the world, that you can give the benefit, right? But then when it's time to give the detriment of that shit, you're not guilt ridden. You're not shaming yourself. You're not feeling these type of ways because both of these are going to, with the reverberation for every being you benefit, there's going to be somebody that suffers. There's going to be a detriment to that. And when we're raised in a world of conformity and people pleasing and all of that shit, nobody wants their gift or their nature to be of detriment to people. They only wanted to be a benefit. You feel me? That's a cold reality, but that is a part of the parenting model that is supposed to be used to allow the child to feel that from the beginning. You feel me? The parent is not supposed to control in any way, shape, or form. They are supposed to guide the child into their nature, right? Here's why that becomes problematic because motherfuckers don't know the nature of themselves. They don't know the nature of themselves, so they can't spot the nature of a child. They can only spot the nature of themselves in the child and try to multiply that. Like you see it all the time with the father who blew his knee out, and then now he wants his son to go to the NBA or go to the league or play sports. So he's putting him in everything that he couldn't do. You feel what I'm saying? The the daughter who um, just didn't have the free reign to go, I guess, I don't know, enjoy life or some shit. And so now she's pushing everything for to replicate the process for her little girl to do it. Like we get to a point where we failed at, we try to make our children succeed at where we failed at, not realizing that, or not even failed at where we just didn't accomplish, not realizing that may not be their path. It never comes to terms that that's going to be the path. Now, this is where now we start to pick up a bigger scale. This is where we get into things of religion and why religion is so important to indoctrinate and make sure people don't think and people don't become the individual and use their nature, because your nature is a part of your individual will, but you've been taught all of this time not to use your will, but to use the will of a deity, which now makes you impose your will as a parent on a child. Why? Because the hierarchy of religion teaches you you have the deity, you have the intercessor, whether that be they're the son or whatever, who is supposed to be the messenger for them. Then you have the pastor, imam, bishop, or whatever. Then you have whoever's under that. Then you have the father. Then you have the mother. Then you have the child. Everything is about a hierarchy and relinquishing your power to the higher ups, right? Or whoever is supposed to be higher up. So if as a parent you're devout, you've already given up your life or whatever to your deity. And in giving up your life to your deity or whatever, you giving up all control, right? I never understood, like I understood it, but hearing people say, Lord, use me, or you like, for what? What is the nature that this deity is supposed to use you for? That is important because it connects with the parenting model. Because how can you guide someone into their nature when you've never been led into yours? Because you've always followed what somebody else did. Now, if we understand the human design, understand astrology, understand numerology, understand whatever the fuck we want to understand, we're always going to see that somehow we always come back to being an individual. And it's broken down into a subset of types of motherfuckers. You feel what I'm saying? You got projectors, you got manifestors, you got reflectors, you got generators, you have air signs, water signs, earth signs, fire signs. You have ones, twos, threes, up to nines. You have so many different things that each individual person has become, but yet somehow we're molded into one. You feel me? This is why when I tell people, if you read Software 3, you know about this. When I say you're creating the image and likeness of a deity, what is the image and likeness? What does that mean to be created in the image and likeness of a plural deity? Whether it's Christianity or Islam, the deities are plural. And Christianity says, let us create man in our image and likeness. That means there's multiple motherfuckers there, which is crazy as hell when you really read it and you start to study and say, well, how can there be no other God before me when you created me in the presence of multiple gods? Wow. In the Quran, it says we created man in the clay or whatever, molded man in the clay. Same thing. We. What's up with this we and us stuff? But yet you're propagating that it's only one, right? It's only one being, but you're actually propagating. That's more because there's an underlying layer to when you're creating the image and likeness of a deity, you're created in a certain element. You feel me? They show you all the time when you look at movies like Divergent and motherfucking the 100, where they create factions. It's always four factions, and these people are like this, these people like this, and you have the one motherfucker who's the anomaly who can fit into all of the factions. And that motherfucker who's the anomaly who can fit into all the factions, that's the motherfucker they do not like, because that person can show the reality that we can be whatever faction we want to be. I just happen to have it opened already. You feel what I'm saying? Same with the human design. When people look at the human design, you got to go through the layers of a shit. Yeah, master it and know yours, and then understand how to use the other energies and know when the other energies to use on you or use against you. Understand what it means to be a projector. Understand what it means to be a reflector. Understand what it means to be a generator. Understand what it means to be a manifester. Same with astrology. Understand what it means to be a fire sign. Understand what it means to be an air sign. Understand. So that way you can use the energy. Parenting is supposed to teach you that. I know. How you start talking about all this esoteric shit, all this shit? Yeah, parenting is supposed to teach you that. But our parenting model only guides us into understanding. Our parenting model guides us into getting a good job, which is it was supposed to. Like, you feel me? When they added parent child development or the parent curriculum or the teaching curriculums into the school curriculums, that's when you know something was okay. We want you to raise your children a certain way, child rearing or whatever the case may be. But the purpose of child rearing, as they make it, is to control the child, to form and mold the child, to make them malleable enough to go into the education system. That's it. Make them malleable enough to be molded in the education system. We fuck up because we do it. We're parents. We know best. And for 18 years, we tell the child we know best. And then after they turn 18, we say it never had a manual. They did the best they could. This is across the board. This is not an individual reality. Like, this is across the board. How can, and one, which is why I made my disclaimer at the beginning, until you have kids, you can't say shit. I can't say shit because the model that y'all using is failing. And y'all been using the same model. The one that y'all keep saying doesn't come with a manual. Y'all keep repeating that shit. How? How does the shit that does not have a manual come preset to where you can follow a template? That's mind blowing when you really think about it, right? How can there be no manual? I'm gonna say it one more time because it's mind blowing to me how I'm hearing it coming out of my mouth. How can you say it does not come with a manual, but everybody's parented the same way? Do we just not give a fuck about the manual, or do we just want to use that as a justification because there's no physical, tangible model, but we're following the same parental structures we came from, which is a part of a culture, which is a part of a society that needs to run a certain way? Again, tying it back into the education system, when a motherfucker says, I want a nation of workers, not thinkers, and then puts billions of dollars behind the shit, I can't even get mad at the parents who fail because you're supposed to. You're not supposed to be a good parent. You're supposed to be a parent. You're supposed to be a person who can guide someone. You can guide a child into being malleable enough into being indoctrinated. But how does it start? Of course, you already know where I'm gonna go. The religion starts it all. Religion teaches you to believe in shit and trust authority. And that's how this game has to be played. That's how the education system is built. You don't know shit. You trust the authority figure who gave you the information enough to regurgitate that shit. I literally just heard somebody the other day. Now, because I'm a beast and I know anatomy and physiology, the motherfucker is like, yeah, because the vagus nerve, it runs down into the intestine, and if that invade vagus nerve, and you know where the vagus nerve come from, it come from the mind. I said, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm looking at them. I didn't say it, but I'm looking at them dead in their soul, and I said, I can tell you don't know what you're talking about. But then it goes back to when I hear people say shit like, yo, you speak with a conviction. It's a certain certainty that I never really knew that I was speaking this way. I just thought I just talk. You feel me? Because I only speak on what the fuck I know and what the fuck I understand. A lot of motherfuckers only speak on what they heard and what they can react to. This is another thing that ties into the parenting model, but it's reflective now because I understand how adults are working. So I can understand how you worked as a child. You feel me? This is no shot. If you ever sent this to me, if you ever done some shit like this to me, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just pointing out the obvious of what it is, right? When people get information they don't comprehend right, they send it to me and they ask me for my thoughts. I used to get offended. As things happen, as things change in life, you change when you get certain revelations. I used to get offended. Now I don't get offended because I understand that the information that they came across, they, in air quotes, heard it. They couldn't listen to it because they couldn't understand it. So they heard it, they reacted, and the first person that they thought of that can make sense of it for them is me. Blew my mind because when I started to step back and look at, wow, this is how we're molded as humans. So the nature, like we're naturally, and this is natural, not nurturally, we're naturally inquisitive beings, right? But we're not designed to use our own curiosity, only rely on the curiosity of others. And specifically the curiosity of others who are older than us or who have a higher authority in life than us. And I'm here to tell you how much of a fuck up that is because you don't know what rank someone holds on the spiritual side. I had to come to terms with that, you know, through being humble and everything that people have been imposing on me. But the reason why is because they had to try to control what I was based off the lack of control they had over themselves. You dig what I'm saying? And a motherfucker like me, just I couldn't be controlled, and I wasn't gonna be controlled, no matter what. So and in not being controlled, it was because I never relied on anybody else's curiosity. I can use my own. But now when we have a parenting structure that doesn't allow us to rely on our like think about the words because I said so. You not only diminish my curiosity, but you show me my curiosity has no relevance. And it's not because my curiosity has no relevance because you don't have the answer. And you don't like the fact that you're being questioned, which is what how the authority figures are established. Don't question me. For what? You wrong. I can't just comply to shit that I don't understand, but that sets the tone, which is what I'm saying is these are grown ass adults, people older than me. It don't matter. They'll send me information. What are your thoughts of this? Because they know, they trust that I am going to have already have or I'm going to do my due diligence on this thought, and they refuse to think about it themselves because they don't trust their own thoughts. I get to where I'm watching people when I do sessions and shit with people, and I'm teaching them parental energy, my paternal energy. When I'm teaching them and shit, they're they're like they'll give me something back and say, "Is that right? You tell me. You know the answer. Why don't you trust yourself?" Most of that shit is because we have been molded again malleably into not believing that we can be right. Only those that are around us could be right. And then if you actually, as a child, attempt to say something, kind of gets undermined. And it's largely because the way in which we view children. We don't view children as humans. We view when you view everything from a hierarchical lens, everything has a certain point. There's gonna come a point where something has a bottom. There's a bottom of the totem pole. We never lived in that type of energy as far as respecting things as hierarchy or highs and lows. Even if we may have had totem poles where we stack things up, we still respected everything in equal space. You may hold a different position, but you feel me? So when we look at children, elders, and adults, that's not a matter of age, and it's never been a matter of age. It's always been a matter of experience. It's always been a matter of experience. Which is why, tying it back into this episode, when people tell me now that they've been telling me Happy Father's Day, I just embrace it. Experientially, I'm a fucking father figure. There's no like the shit that I've shown and the places that I've gone, the wars that I've fought to gain certain information to like, come on, bro. That's ain't nobody there. But that's because tying it back into the curiosity that I had that was allowed to be unleashed. You feel what I'm saying? And there's a fine line within the parenting in which you have to try to control your child, but you can't like when we actually look at what deities are, they're highest conceptualizations of the mind, right? So when we look at the six and we look at the beast or whatever the case may be, what we don't want to expect is that the parent, right, the quote unquote elder is supposed to be the god, right? The child is the beast. The adult is the transition from the beast into the god. This is why it's layered, but I want to say it was Socrates or maybe Aristotle, but one of them motherfuckers who you know what they do. But he said, in the solitude of itself, you can't tell the difference between a god and a wild beast. If you leave a child alone, let them get quiet. This is one of the, like, I don't know if I said it on either on a post or an episode, but God is always in the silence. The devil is in the details, right? So basically, the devil is in the noise, the God is in the silence. You feel me? The devil is in the principle. I mean, the details, the God is in the principle, right? But either way, the point that I'm saying with that is that when a child is silent, you can hear them because they loud as fuck. But when a child is silent, you feel me? Like it's too quiet. They are in their space. And in this moment, you can't tell whether there's the God or the beast in that because it's just a refined moment in the solitude of the highest conceptualization of themselves in that moment. Their nature is showing. When they start drawing on shit, their nature is showing. When they start beating on shit, trying to use their energies, it's their nature is showing. What's the first thing that happens when our nature shows? You get beat because you have to be molded malleably into conforming into the education system. But now it has to go back into slavery too, because now if your nature showed, this is why they took our language. Like our nature is in our language, our nature is in our culture. When they took all of that from us and then gave us a religion, that's not natural to us, bro. Like think about this. I don't want to be one, like I want y'all to wake up and see some shit, but like y'all don't have to give up the religion, but y'all need to wake up and understand what it was used for. Everything they gave us was bad. Everything they gave us was bad, but this was the only good thing that came out of it because it was designed to tame you, because it was designed to guide your nature, to nurture your nature into what it needed it to be. Our nature naturally is demonic to our oppressor. Makes sense. The God of your enemy is your devil. So my inherent nature is in opposition to those who are trying to oppress me. Doesn't have to be that hard. But we have to parent our children into accepting their oppression. That's the model. I don't give a fuck how everybody else raising their kids. That's how we've been raising our kids for 500 years. And we like, yo, this was a bad parent. Like, this is one of the reasons why I don't get mad, like, at my familial structure. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I used to play because it's like when you start to see, when your vision gets bigger, when your vision gets wider and you can see things on a higher scale, on a bigger or broader scale, I'm like, I can't, y'all did what was supposed to happen. I'm not mad at that. Because I got to realize that I'm trying to make it seem like you were supposed to suddenly wake up from 500 years of conditioning. I get it. Well, you did. No, I didn't. I had to see some shit to wake me up, to shake me up, right? But the parenting model is the same parenting model we had since slavery, which now goes into that episode that I was talking about, the mother-son dynamic, the mother-son relationship. All of that shit is all of that shit is coded, and we've been in this space for the last 500 years. Again, 531 to be exact. The curse is not the curse is not anything biblical, it's not anything ordained. The curse is simply that your nature has been manipulated. Your nature has been nurtured to benefit your oppressor. That's it. That's what this is. You ever paid attention? Like, and we're oppressed by everybody. Let's get that clear. I want it to be clear. I don't want it to seem like, oh, I'm always talking about white people. Yeah, white supremacy is the head because they infused and got everybody on board, but everybody's against black people. Everybody's against black people. All black original, and it's not even just black people. You feel me? It's the black people that they could not break. They cannot break the Americans. I'm not, and this is not a shit or a slight towards the people in Africa, right? And here's the only reason why I'm saying this: the people in Africa were allowed to keep their language. A lot of them still speak their native tongues, which is why they look down on us in America. They be like, "Well, y'all don't have no culture." They laugh at us and say, "We ain't got no culture." Y'all were allowed to keep yours. That shows the distance. That shows the tipping of the scales right there. If you've ever felt in any kind of way, if you ever felt in any kind of way that you were superior to people in America because you were from Africa and you know you speak your language or whatever the case may be, you're still Christian and you're still colonized. But you were allowed to keep your language and your tongue. You were allowed to keep your customs. You were allowed to keep everything. We lost it all. What was the separating factor between us and y'all where the nature in us had to be completely obliterated? Because it doesn't matter what the nature is, it doesn't matter how you nurture it, that nature is not changing. You feel what I'm saying? And then now if you look at the difference, you have us on this side screaming shit like fuck the police, and then over on in the states, in the continent, whatever. Some of them are on that type time, but then it's like for the most ones, the ones that shun us, they're the ones that will marry Caucasian. They're the ones that let these motherfuckers in South Africa just do what the fuck ever, and they don't own anything. But they have their native tongue. They still have their customs. They can wear their traditional garbs and shit. That's important to know because that means your nature wasn't a threat. Your nature was not a threat. Whatever happens here in America, Whatever we were and what we are here in America, that's the threat is so real that they had to give us a book and told us we came from a land we didn't come from. Sit with that. That ties into how we're parented. That ties into all of this. This is the parenting because parentings are guides. They guide and nurture the nature of a being. Ah, now we getting somewhere. So who's our real parents culturally? If we have to depend on everybody to nurture our nature, but we don't know what our nature is. We're going against our natural nature as we contribute and we give to this world. You feel what I'm saying? I just seen this post and the guy was like, how come the only no books, no science books, math books, whatever the case may be, are translated into African languages, except the Bible and the Quran? Those are the only two books that are translated into African languages. Everything else stays within the culture that created, and you have to, as an African, Africoid origin person, you have to learn that language, that custom, that value in order to be a part of that. We don't find that odd. That ties into how we're parented because now we're treating our kids to contribute to everybody else rather than contributing to home. But again, we don't have any culture, we don't have any language, we don't have anything. So we're nurtured according to a nature that we can no longer tap into. So now when they say, "Oh, y'all came from Africa, y'all was in ships and y'all was enslaved, and now we're gonna give you the Bible to justify it." So now you have to. So the only way your atrocities can be justified is through that Bible. So now you're like, okay, we did come from Africa, not realizing that, damn, we didn't come from Africa. We was here already. Not only were we here already, we're a whole different type of people. Not only are we a whole different type of people, in a whole different type of people, we actually have names, and we have names of our people that we can go back and find the cultures and the languages and shit that they completely overlooked. But what do our parents do? Teach us to go to school to get a good job and be civil. Now we look at so much of the shit, bro. We have the integration, civil rights movement, and everything. Now we just be like, look at where we are right now, bro. This is the parenting is designed to make a non-functional Africoid person be an absolute consumer and not a producer of anything, and consume so motherfucking much that everybody can benefit off of you except you and your own people. Yeah, I know it didn't. You didn't think it was gonna go this way. You thought I was gonna be talking about bad parenting. Ha, parents. Ha ha. No, there's always gems in everything that are a lot layered than what people care to see. Parenting is how you nurture the nature of a being. So this is now when I'm implying, when I'm speaking this, it's not to say, okay, yeah, everybody else is our parent. No, but everybody else does nurture our nature. We created hip hop, but don't own it. How? Everything we created, we don't own. Because they were able to catch the patents and they created the patent office and all this shit. Say, hey, you feel me? When you're so good at creation, you don't really think to own the creation because you naturally know that I'm supposed to create to give to the world. They came in a space where they don't necessarily have the creative faculties. Like y'all got to look at how the world is run off of what they stole from us and implemented. There has been no progression in humanity since they stole from us. This is everybody. The Caucasoid, the Mongoloid, and the Arab. See, the Arab is like there's only three genetics of people: the Caucasoid, the Mongoloid, and the Africoid. So that's the genetically dominant black man and black woman, the heterozygous dominant heterozygous recessive man and woman, which is the Mongoloid, and then the recessive man and woman, which is the Caucasoid. The Arab fits in that somewhere in between that amalgamation. But think about everybody that is pretty much in a position, right? They stole our shit. They stole our shit, gave it back to us in a bastardized version, and now they nurture our nature with the shit that we infused our nature with that we don't understand anymore. That's crazy, right? Motherfuckers really think that they are Hebrew Israelites. When your mind has been nurtured into believing your nature is a slave, all you can see is that you are a slave and everything is supposed to be oppressive for you. Your nature has been nurtured according to how you're not supposed to be a threat anymore. Now I get it. Black people are wondering, well, we not out here trying to kill anybody a threat. Like, yo, you are genetic annihilation walking. You feel what I'm saying? So those are things that had to be erased. But I gotta make sure that to erase it, it has to be something you don't know is happening to you. Because if you know what's happening to you, then you know it's oppression. If you don't know what's happening to you, then you can't say it's oppression. You just think, hey, you feel me? It's a whole plethora of us that got heat with our families, and it's not even our family, but we don't have beef with our families. Now, granted, the catalyst and the effects are there, but our families aren't the cause. This is just reverberated shit. This is for the biblical motherfuckers. This is what it means when Jesus says, "Forgive them, Father, because they know not what they do." On one side, you're looking at it, you can look at it like, no, bitch, you are purposely inflicting pain on me. You know what you're doing. Mm-mm. They believe that what they're doing is right. They have no understanding about what they're doing because their nature has been nurtured a certain way. That's a powerful line. Now, when I tell y'all religion got three layers to the motherfucker, mythology, ritual, and allegory, that line, forgive them, Father, because they will know not what they do, is a mythological expression. Allegorically, it lets you know why they know not what they do, because it breaks down the levels of the mind and how most people have not reached understanding, but they believe in shit and they follow it, which is ironic because that comes from the verses in the Bible and it's spoken by the man who tells you to believe. But that's a whole nother conversation. If we understand that in this conversation, with the way in which we have to nurture ourselves, nurture our nature, we have to know where we're going. So now, when they're telling you that black people were everything under the sun but good, you by any means, we don't like our hair. We don't want to stay in the sun to get darker. When staying in the sun charges us up, we don't want to eat watermelon when watermelon is like liquid gold to us. Like there's so many motherfucking things that we just refuse to do, and we don't know why we don't do it because our nature has been completely nurtured away from us. That is mind blowing. That takes life to a whole nother reality. You feel me? In many regards, it takes life to a whole nother reality because imagine your nature completely nurtured out of you, right? And it started off, you had to like when you read book like How to Make a Negro a Christian. That's the amazing thing because what the fuck was a Negro? And I get it. A lot of people keep saying we was Negroes, we was this. You got to ask yourself why you started off as a Negro and became the African American now, or the FBA, whatever the fuck it is that you want to call yourself now. It don't matter. The reason why you were called the Negro first because the motherfuckers could not pronounce negra when they stole from the Spanish conquistadors who taught them how to. Oh look, if y'all want to do this with the American Spanish conquistadors did it to the islands, they try to do it to the whole continent. You feel me? Same like they did with Africa. Africa, it was a little bit different. But all in all, we have to understand what it is that they were looking for, what they're trying to nurture out. Like it when I started studying Napoleon's army and I started dabbling in the voodoo, I didn't practice voodoo, but I studied it. Like anything that I felt was considered dark, I had to enlighten myself about it. Half the shit in voodoo you can't do voodoo anyway unless you own land. A lot of motherfuckers don't even know that shit. Which is crazy because I seen like I was in I was in a it's some motherfucking New Yorkers, B. But I was in this chat on Facebook a while ago. Just to dabbling because I was trying to learn about voodoo. I wasn't necessarily trying to expose myself to it to do it, but I like to learn about some shit first to know, okay, can I fuck with it, right? So as I'm actually learning what voodoo was and shit and Vodun and the actual study of it and the science behind it, it's like, oh, this is different. I understand now why they fear Haiti. So when they tell you this is demonic, now we can go back into what demon is. This whole system is laid out to nurture the fuck out of your nature, right? So when we go back to um the religion being imposed upon people and everything like that, it's like, yo, this is gonna suppress their nature because their nature is naturally demonic to us. Now, when we understand the word demon, demon comes from the word daemon, Daemon, and it's Greek and it means genius. Wow. Wow. When I convince black people that they are demonic, that they are this, that, and the third. They are geniuses in the flesh, and I'm gonna nurture the fuck out of their natures. The genius in them is what erected the 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 systems to be able to beat the Napoleon's army. His army was reduced from 3,000 to from 30,000 to 3,000, and nobody wants to talk about why. Because Napoleon had the greatest army of all time. That's what they want to say. Hannibal Barca will watch that nigga, but um, Napoleon had the greatest army of all time, but his army got reduced from 33,000 to 3,000 by Haitians that were supposedly stupid, that were supposedly nothing. No, it was Haitians that tapped back into their nature. When I studied, it's either Overture or Denmark Dessalines, one of them, but it was during the Revolution. They said, "Give the white man back his God. You are free." And it was tap back into the nature of self. They nurtured the nature away, tap back into that nature of self. And when they tap back into the nature, they won. That's why everybody fears Haiti. But this is why they're trying to milk Haiti and get Haiti to they trying to they're trying to get the people off the land of Haiti, but they can't because their nature keeps them alive. You feel me? The two ways in which you get the nature, you remove the nature out of a motherfucker is, for one, you nurture them and you indoctrinate them, give them with it, or you take the most aggressive route out and you rape them. When we look at it's wild when you look at how Haiti and the Dominican Republic is the same piece of land. Or is it Cuba and Dominican? No, I'm right. It's Haiti and the Dominican Republic. They are the same piece of land. Same piece. But them Dominicans will tell you, I know black. Big Papa Ortiz, the baseball player, he no black. All right, nigga. Out here looking like fucking Barry Bonds. Told him I know black because you speak Spanish. You feel me? So when we look at the people, Sammy Sosa's and shit like that, like their nature, it was a difference damaging with them because the nature got taken out of them so much that they wanted to continue to remove the nature out of them. Now, nature is deep. This is one of the reasons why I'm like, yo, I can't mix with other race people. Y'all can be as cool as you want to be. Y'all can have invites to the cookout that I didn't send. Y'all can do whatever the fuck you want. But at the end of the day, we have two different natures. Why? Because our DNA stores two totally different bloodline memories. You feel me? Motherfuckers be like, how come when the mixed kid who's black and white, why can't they fit in? Because there is a genetic violation within themselves on an esoteric level that they can't rectify. They are simultaneously the master and the slave genetically. That information has been passed down. And I know people, oh, seeing, how do you know this? I'm going to validate it off several points. The first point, I'm going to state esoterically, is the human design. Human design broke down with the 60, human design and the I Ching broke down with the 64 hexagrams that denote the 60. We talked about this, the 64 codons of the DNA, right? Now, here's what we didn't talk about. Within the DNA, you have two specific delineations of your DNA. You have your introns and you have your exons. Introns are your coding material. This is what's expressed. These are the genetic part. These are this is the light side of you, the site that people see that's automatically present, your conscious side. Then you have your dark side, your unconscious side. These are your exons. They call this in science junk DNA. They call it junk DNA because when you unlock certain things within this DNA template, it opens you up to different things of the past. When I tell people a lot of shit I download or a lot of shit I unlock, it is because there's something in this physical world that triggers the reality that unlocks that part of my DNA and makes it visible. Whether it was unseen, it is now seen because now it moves into the seen shit that I'm able to do. So now when I'm able to give my understandings and speak with the conviction that they say that I have, it's because of shit like this, right? So now we have introns and you have exons, you have that in the DNA. Now imagine merging the DNA of somebody who's a bloodline of the oppressor and somebody who's the bloodline of the oppressed. When they merge, the unseen shit is crazy because depending on how you're developed and how you're nurtured will determine what comes out of the DNA. Case in point, I use this example because it works beautifully. J. Cole and Drake are both mixed rappers, both rappers born of white women and black fathers. but they're two totally different. Their nature is totally different. J. Cole has more, and when you think about what J. Cole grew up, I went to college where J. Cole grew up at. J. Cole grew up at, right? 2-6 and Fayetteville, right? I went to college there, and it was dope because right when he was dropping, what was the mixtape? Friday Night Lights. This was just before he got like, we literally seen J. Cole get signed in Fayetteville, like when I went there for college and shit. Like we seen he shot when in the Who Dat video, the cheerleaders, those are FSU cheerleaders, those are the Broncos. You feel me? And my girl at the time, she was a cheerleader. She just wasn't there because she went home for summer session or some shit like that. But she ended up being on an interview for the news where they talked about the shit, and it was dope. It was dope. But anywho, watching J. Cole transition, it's like J. Cole was in the hood. You can tell in his expression that he grew up in the hood. Drake on the other side, you can tell in his expression that he didn't grow up in the hood. We give him the pass because he's, the light skinned rapper, he's black or whatever the case may be. But at the core, you can tell between their essences, their natures were nurtured totally different. J. Cole's nature was more so catered towards his black side, right? Or the black part of the genetics that had to come out of him. Drake, on the other hand, he was more so nurtured for the white side. And you can tell in their lyricism, you can tell by the content in which they speak, you can tell by the shit that they say. You feel what I'm saying? This is why you can feel J. Cole a little more than you could feel Drake. You feel me? This is one of the reasons also too why J. Cole doesn't have as many songs dedicated to women Drake has. Drake is a lot more emotional. He grew up in a space where the emotions were valid. You feel me? He grew up Jewish. Come on, bro. His nature is totally different. But him and J. Cole are both mixed men with white mothers and black fathers. Their nature was nurtured differently because of their environment. I don't know about the six. I don't know about Toronto. I don't know about all of that shit. But I do know that motherfuckers in Canada said, like, Drake ain't from this. He ain't that. The fuck? He ain't that. But when you look at J. Cole, it's like coming from the 2-6, and it's like, okay, you can rap about that shit because I grew up. I know the 2-6, bro. Like the Merc, like you feel me? It's different, but it's a different nature because it was nurtured differently. Which now goes back into what I'm saying. When your DNA, when we don't understand the parts about our DNA and how it has to be unlocked, it can only be unlocked from the environments and the people and the circumstances that we're in. It's only going to unlock. You have to experience different plays of light to unlock all of the aspects of your DNA. Some of the parts of your DNA ain't gonna be unlocked in this life because your environment won't allow it. Right? You have to interact with certain people, certain forces, certain things in order for certain parts of your DNA to be unlocked. But you have to understand that. They parent us to go straight to school, get a good job, get a good education, and go work for a motherfucker, and not to actually think anymore. So again, we're molded to become malleable, to be indoctrinated by everything. This is why it goes back into people can't think for themselves and they just have to rely on somebody else who give them the information. When people don't understand some shit, I'm usually one of the first people they come to in my immediate circle because they trust me as the source, right? And when they need somebody to make sense of the shit, this is what it is. But this is a part of how the parenting structure works. I know it's like, yo, Sane, you talked about all, like, how did you, because I understand some shit that I understand how to see a cycle and see a system. You feel me? I couldn't just keep pointing fingers and saying, okay, my dad and my mom wasn't like, it's different. Y'all were not supposed to parent correctly. It wasn't going to work. I don't give a fuck if y'all would have stayed together, if y'all stayed in church, whatever the case may be. It wasn't supposed to work because 500 years ago, it was already established that this parenting model fails. This parenting model fails because it takes the nature out of the person to make the nature. It nurtures the nature out of a person to make the child not threatening to the opposed system. Nobody wants to raise a pro-black child. I get it. A lot of people say it. Oh, I want my child to be pro-black and everything like this. You can't, and I can tell when your mind changes because in one breath, on paper, consciously, you might want to raise that pro-black child. But then when you see the slaughters in the streets, suddenly it's, I don't want to have kids. How am I going to protect my kids? How am I going to do all of this? That's by design. It's to make sure you always nurture their nature the way that makes them not a threat in this world. This is also not to say nurture them into being violent people that are just gonna, go out. You got to teach them the right way to fight oppression. You got to teach them how to fight oppression. And the only way you can fight oppression is through intelligence. This is why they removed masculinity from the world, added femininity to the world, made it toxic, and told everybody that this is what it is. It's not. It's not. You feel what I'm saying? But it's used. They use all of those resources. All of the they. There's a like. I don't think y'all understand the power of systems. How now when we understand systemic racism, it is the systems in place to guarantee that your nature never shows itself. Sit with that. Sit with that. The systemic racism is the backside. That's the iceberg. The tip is the individual parenting. Yeah, we can look at, I grew up, I talk about this, and there's some people that don't understand what this means. Where, I have people like I had to be home before the streetlights came on. All of us culturally have that. Only a few of us know why we had to be home before the streetlights came on. And the parents could not tell us why we had to be home, but it was because I said so. Because you didn't know. Because when you learned to be home before the street lights came on as a child, you questioned it and it was told because I said so. It shouldn't matter. Just be home before the street lights come on until you go back into the history and realize that when the street lights go on, right? That's when motherfuckers was lynching us. That's when motherfuckers was coming snatching us up. If you was out in the streets, chances are you was about to be strange fruit. That's a hard pill to swallow, and that's something hard to deal with. But at the same time, it helps you understand the nature of why your nature is being attacked. But now we look at it today because I used to get mad at it. Why I got to be home before the street lights come on? Then I understood. I said, oh, but we're not in that time no more. It doesn't matter where we in that time no more. The parenting model is already set. This is what I need you to do. This is what you're going to do. This is how I need this is how I need your nature nurtured. You feel me? I was doing some study. I forgot what it was. I forgot the book, but it's shorty that I was dealing with a few years ago, back in like 2017, it's 2016, 2017. And she sent me this book. And as I'm reading the book, it's a father talking to his son, but he's teaching him. And she sends me the book or whatever the case may be. She said, I feel like this is the type of father you're gonna be. I feel like this is the type of teacher you are. And so I'm reading the book and I'm getting information, but it's like the dude is literally just asking questions. He's he's bringing the nature out of the child and that he's conversing with, and now he's refining the nature. Simultaneously, it was an amazing thing, and it was just like, I already do that to people. I allow my nature to show, which makes people's nature comfortable, and then now I can help them nurture their nature. But there's people right here who are in conflict because most of the people who meet me, most of the people who are in this space right now, hell, a lot of y'all that are in the podcast space that are on this right now who have been able to find me, y'all are here because your nature is peeking through and it's conflicting with your nurture. And as somebody who, and this is cosmic shit. This is not, you don't have to physically know me. The collective consciousness is real. Right? There's a higher level, a higher order of consciousness that connects us all, right? So when you need to align with something, that consciousness resonates and it brings you towards what you need to align with whenever your mind is in that right space, right? So when people meet me, they're at a space where that nature of themselves is poking through and it's conflicting with the nurture of themselves, and they don't know what's going on. They think they're going crazy. They think they're losing their shit. No, you were always nurtured a certain way. And now I don't want to let anybody down who nurtured me. But you have to ask yourself, did they let you down by nurturing you? When I tell people I became myself, I've only been myself for 6 years. Well, 7, 2000. It'll be 6 towards the end. In September, it'll be 6 years, 7 years. So I've been myself for only 6 years of my life. For 25 years, I've been the nurtured version of myself. The first 25 to 26 years of my life, I was the nurtured version of myself. How many of us are the nurtured version of ourselves and think that's who the fuck we are? And now the natural version, it keeps poking its head out and you see shit and that's not me. I'm trying to tame myself. Now you got ADHD. Now you got ADD. Now you got anxiety. Now you got depression. Now you got all these mental health issues because your nature is conflicting with your nurture and you can't figure it out. And it's not because you can't figure it out, because you were parented this way. You were parented this way. Parenting is not whether the parenting is good or bad, is that's irrelevant. You were guided into having your nature nurtured a certain way that benefited oppression. It ain't your fault. It is not your fault. It's also not your parents' fault, but it is everybody's responsibility to change the situation. It's not your fault that it happens, but it's your responsibility to make the change when you identify it. But we can't identify it because it, we're not taught to view the world the right way. So we can't go in and look and see, okay, what is going on? So that way we think everything is, my daddy wasn't there, my mama wasn't there, this person wasn't there. No, the system was designed for them not to be there. Or and if they were there, they're going to plug you into the system to make you easy to be indoctrinated. How many times have you heard growing up in school, the teacher, how many times as a child, because the nature and the nurture, you are in the classroom and the teacher the teacher doesn't like me. And your parent says, you're not there for the teacher to like you. Kind of, because the teacher has to allow my nature to show for them to nurture me in the first place. So if all of these teachers are teaching 25 kids at one time, they're nurturing them the same way. Don't ask me no questions. Don't try to think about none of this shit. No, I'm gonna nurture you into being a logical thinker. Your nature says that you're a musically inclined thinker. Like that's it. Now, if you understand, if you read Soul 3, you understand when you have the musical intelligence, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're just good with playing music. That means you understand rhythm, you understand time, you understand rhythm, you understand time as the not as the clock shit, but as the entity of what time really is. Right? You understand rhythm? That is a law. Rhythm is the law of rhythm is one of the laws of the universe. You feel me? Music, the intelligence of music is responsible for understanding that. You dig what I'm saying? The scales, the times, the signatures. There's so many different things and intricacies of music that apply to real life. Syncopations, harmony, noise. There's a whole bunch of shit that you have to pay attention to. Now, this person is musically inclined, so everything they have the music intelligence. That's their nature. So everything about their nature says everything needs to be in harmony. It needs to be musically. It needs to be rhythmic. We're taught by rhythmless people. Think about that shit. All you keep hearing is get into the markets, but do you trade or do you invest? Should you do stocks, forex, crypto, or NFTs? My personal answer is not a single one if you don't know how to read a chart. Without knowing how to read a chart, you end up giving all your money to those who do. Do you know what a candle is? Do you know the pocket of activity? Do you know the difference between market direction and market control? If you answer no at least once, you might want to learn how to read a chart first. Learning how to read a chart will let you know if you should trade or invest and if you should do stocks, forex, crypto, and or NFTs. It will also let you know if this is even for you or not. So visit IamJustSeen.com to learn how to read charts with my Mastering the Market course, ebooks, and webinars today. The world is changing. The question is, will you adapt with it? Imagine your nature is being nurtured by a rhythmless motherfucker and you got rhythm. Your natural intelligence is the musical intelligence, and you have rhythm. You understand the balance of rhythm, the harmony of how things are supposed to work and collaborate together. But you're being nurtured into being a logical thinker. You have your nature is interpersonal or intrapersonal. That means you a fucking feeler. You feel shit, but you're being guided and nurtured into a logical space. Tying it back into the seven intelligence, like I mentioned, it's only a 14%. Like we filtered 100% of motherfuckers into a 14% lens. If 14% of 14%, when we dissect the intelligences, right? Because there's seven, nine, but there's seven in which we're talking about. One intelligence is 14%. So you're basically telling me there's 80%, 86% of the intelligences that we don't use or we make them electives or extracurricular activities. Wow. The nature of yourself is an extracurricular activity if you ain't logical. I happen to be the one, not the one. I happen to be one of the ones who can use all intelligences, but my I don't know what my preset intelligence is. I would have to say it might be logic, but I don't know. I low key, not low key. I have them all, but I have them all because of life. You dig what I'm saying? Like I wasn't innately, I can't say that I was innately wired with all of them open, but I do know when I was 17 months old and I got ran over by a car and I didn't die, it opened me up. I know how near death experiences work. Doesn't matter whether you remember the near death experience or not. It literally shatters every illusion between mind, body, and soul. So I've been open all my life, but I can use all intelligences. So people are like, yo, you make music, you can make beats. Like I can use every intelligence. Don't look at the skill that I use, that I do it with, but just understand that I know how to use every intelligence. So when you're nurtured, and because some shit ain't logical, but this is why they talk about logics all the time. Oh, statistics say black women are gonna be, when we look at the statistics, right? They always talk about, well, black women statistically are like 50% of people get divorced or whatever. Means 50% of motherfuckers make it. But it's like when people look at the stat, this is what I'm talking about. Nate, I talked about this in a previous episode, but it ties in here is the nature and the nurture. When people look at statistics, they only look at the one half of the stat. And the stat that they look at is the one they're using to justify their point. Not realizing that 100%, like statistics provide they let you know what efficacy is. They let you know the efficacy of a thing. That's it. So out of 100%, how efficient are you? How efficient is this system? That's what it is. Statistics provide the efficacy of a system. Every system they have in place, they have the statistics behind it to generate the, when you understand the advertising and marketing, those are two, advertising, marketing, and branding, the three skills I feel like everybody needs to have. When you understand advertising, marketing, and branding, you start understanding statistics a little bit better. When you understand statistics a little bit better, you understand human psychology. When you can understand human psychology, you understand why the education system has to work the way it does. When you understand that, you understand why the parent structure has to be that way. Because I need to make sure that you are nurturing the nature out of any kind of thinker. Don't nurture these motherfuckers to think. So the first way I got to get you is by giving you a religion that doesn't tell you to think. The book literally starts off with it being a sin to eat of the tree of knowledge. I don't think it can get more obvious than that. It is a sin to eat of the tree of knowledge. Hmm. I get, oh, they ate it anyway. Yeah. And by the premise of gaining the knowledge, right? I don't think people understand the subconscious, the unconscious shit that is being written within their minds off the premise of knowing that these people were punished eternally, so much so that somebody had to come and die for them just because they gained knowledge. When you gain knowledge, whether you're consciously aware of this or subconsciously aware of this, once you accept this religion and you follow this religion, if you gain any bit of knowledge, you automatically, unconsciously tell yourself that sin is going to follow when you start to know shit. That's why they teach you ignorance is bliss when it's not. But this is why people are comfortable not knowing. This is why this is how convenience works, because people are lazy and ignorant. They merged the two because now I took the nature out of you to give you the nurture I needed you to have. So now I don't want you to think. And now you don't think. So much so that you think thinking is wrong because I have already programmed this innately within you. You feel me? You ever notice that when motherfuckers start learning new shit or they start thinking about it, go to a religious person with some new information you learn. I put money on it. It's almost a 90% chance they're going to say that ain't nothing but the devil. Listen to that. For a motherfucker to say that ain't nothing but the devil. And everything that quote unquote is nothing but the devil, that if you run through the gamut of everything you've heard that was nothing but the devil, it was some shit that they didn't understand. Some shit they didn't understand or you didn't understand and you were taught to stay away from the shit. When you want to know about sex, you're too young to know about sex. That's a demon spirit. That's a demonic spirit. Everything that you want to know about, everything that has propensity to give you knowledge, right? They'll shut it down by saying that's a negative spirit. Stay away from it. That's been the thing the whole time. So again, whether you consciously understand your religious text or not, it doesn't matter. Once you read it, it's been processed on the unconscious level. And now because we have collective consciousness and then we also have shit from the ethers, your unconscious mind already knows this. Now, when we go back into the DNA side of the shit for 500 years and you understand that you have already been forced on this, that shit is DNA, is wired within you. You don't have to read the shit anymore. because it's already passed down certain parts within the DNA, but they make sure they consciously reaffirm certain parts of the DNA. So now when you're hearing shit like, oh, you know, um, the eating of the tree of knowledge is the reason why we have cycles, when women have cycles, and why men have to till the land and all of these other things. Why we was cursed. We was cursed for getting smart. We was cursed for gaining knowledge. Whether we accept this shit consciously or not, we know this shit on an unconscious level. We know this shit on an unconscious level, which is how we were nurtured into this shit. Oh no, it's a sin to think. It's a sin for you to think. Don't think, because that's not what God wants you to do. He wants you to believe with all your heart that Jesus is Lord. God don't want you to do that shit. Created in the image and likeness of a deity who has omnipotent, omni everything, and you're not. I don't get how motherfuckers just lost sight of that shit. But again, it's because you were nurtured into being the subservient slave. This is why I'm like, black people, which chosen people are you? Are you the chosen people who's designed to be oppressed? Or are you the chosen people designed to be the oppressor? We know what the answer is, because you ask black people, they'll give you Deuteronomy 28 all the time, but they won't give you Psalms 82 and 6. You rather give me the verse that tells me, oh, I was a slave, we fucked up, we this, but you're not going to give me the one that says you're a God? Wow. Because I can't nurture it. Because if you tie the fact that you're a God to your nature, your nurture goes to a whole different perspective. And then when you learn how to nurture yourself, tying it all back in, bringing it all full circle. They manipulated the parental structure because the purpose of a parent is to teach you, is to nurture your nature, but teach you how to nurture that nature. You see what I'm saying? I can't really guarantee whether she knew 100% or not, or whatever the case may be, but my nature was always nurtured. My mom taught me how to be a researcher when she couldn't answer the questions that, she would go send me. You feel me? There was a lot of frustration there too. I got a lot of because I said so's, but for the most part, if it was other shit, I went to go, I was nurtured to handle my nature. And now all of us are naturally inquisitive. See, what people don't understand about desire, you only desire what you don't understand. Not what you don't have, not what you need. You desire what you do not understand or you do not have understanding for. Right. And that's the only reason why temptation works. And this is why the Bible starts and the book starts with Eve was tempted by the snake. The snake provided her with information that she did not have and made her want to have it. And in this desire, he was able to nurture her nature to make her bite the apple or the fruit, the fig, whatever you want to call it. You feel me? It was definitely a fig. The fruit that she ate was a fig, but it changes the reality because they covered themselves with the fig tree leaves. But it's dope. Figs are purple. There's a whole level of figs that's a whole conversation I can't even talk about because of where we talking at right now. But anywho, running it back. When we look at how the parental structure was designed to make sure you control now the nurture the nature. So now naturally we have the inclination to know that we have to nurture a nature of a being. This is why we relinquish our control up to something outside of ourselves, call it the deity's will, and we impose our will on somebody else. Like, I don't think we get that. Like, for ourselves, and this is why we don't grow in life. This is why we can't progress in life, and this would probably be one of the points that piss y'all off. But this is why we don't get anywhere in life. Because we know that we're supposed to use our own will, but we convince ourselves to follow the will of a deity, and then we tell somebody else to follow our will. We don't really realize that that's what we're doing. We're telling them that I'm your God, listen to me. And now we go through the world trying to impose our will on motherfuckers because we don't have a will to impose, because we're trying to rely on the will of something that we don't know about, that we can't see, that we can't understand, or we can't comprehend. You feel me? When I talk to religious people, they say they got to follow the will of a deity, but they also say you can't understand the mind of God. Well, if you know that the being goes body, soul, mind, body, mind, soul. The mind is the bridge between the soul and the body, and the soul is the will. Right? Understanding is the highest part of the mind. So when you're taught, one, lean not on your own understanding. Two, that you can't understand your deity, how can you follow your deity's will? You can't. You have to trust that somebody above you has enough authority or has enough insight to give you the proper authority. Imagine, imagine, imagine receiving a religion that you receiving the words of a religion that you yourself could not read. You couldn't read, you couldn't write. But you got the religion to read. That could not have been good for you. You feel me? Because it had to nurture the nature a certain way. So now when you hear verses like slaves, honor your master like you would Jesus Christ, makes sense. When you have parents to say, children, honor your um honor your father, honor your mother and your father, for your days will be long in this world. Ephesians and shit. All of these two verses was Ephesians, but nobody says, parents, do not stir your children up to anger. Because when you're actually nurturing their nature, your child will never be mad at you. I know. See, where they're gonna have moments like the disdain that the child generation has for the adult generation. What I mean by that, the parents, our generation and our parents, the disdain that we have is a problem. The cyclic disdain that the children have for the parents is a problem, but it all comes back into the nature and the nurture. Because we think it's nature versus nurture, or no, it's you nurture their nature. It don't have to be much harder than that. The child tells you who they are, what they're gonna be. No, you tell them what they're gonna be. And you tell them, like we tell kids, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be anything that I envision myself that I didn't try. At times it comes off like I'm all over the place. I even say it sometimes too. I'll be like, yo, I'm all over the place as far as I got so frail, hitting it raw. Like, no, when it's all said and done, nobody can say that I didn't try whatever I wanted to try. I didn't do me in the quest to restoring my nature. You feel me? In the request of restoring my nature. And in finding my nature, now I know how to nurture my nature. A lot of shit feels like a layup. Life ain't hard no more. Life is not hard anymore. That's something I can honestly admit. Life was fucking difficult as shit when I was trying to operate from how I was nurtured, which was wild because it's like I said, it came from I was 4 years old when I uttered these words that I was going to be a doctor. I said I wanted to be a doctor because I knew I was a healer, but I only knew doctors as healers. I didn't know anything else. I didn't know spiritual healing, mental healing, physical healing. I didn't know these different dynamics. I didn't know the processes of hurt, healed, recovered. I didn't know all of these shit. These are all episodes, by the way. But I didn't know a lot of the shit that I had to learn. You dig what I'm saying? And again, this is like, I can't get mad at when you in poverty. Poverty is painful. That's why I made that shirt for a reason. Poverty is painful. And when you're in poverty, you can't see, you don't, you're trying to be in a state of survival. You don't have time to gain understanding. I don't know about y'all. I know I am the second generation from my bloodline to go to college. I have one other cousin from our immediate bloodline that went to college on my mama's side. She's younger than me, so I'm still the first. She the second. My grandmother. Now this is my first cousin. Now my grandmother had 10 kids. When she left this world, she had over 33 grandkids. Only two went to college and finished. I was the first one out of 33. That's different because a lot of us have similar stories to that. And with us having similar stories to that, what was my grandmothers, both of them, did not go to higher education. Now, when I say higher education, I don't think they finished high school. You feel me? And no shot, not on no disrespectful shit. Like someone, oh, they didn't finish. But like, no, I have to understand the system. They had to go work in the fields at young ages. They couldn't it wasn't a lot of people don't pay attention to this shit. Like we wasn't always the ones educated. Like you feel what I'm saying? We always wasn't the ones educated. Sometimes we had to choose between education and work. Still doing that shit to this day, but we had to choose between education and work. Where once it was, oh, we're not letting them in because you feel me, they just gonna stay out. Cause you feel me? Now it's like we're gonna make sure that when they get in that we fuck them over. Now they can't afford to get in. We'll let them come, but now they can't afford to get in. The whole time We got to think about the generation. I get why my grandmother would encourage her kids to go to college. You feel me? I get why my mother would encourage us to go to college. But then in a part of that nurturing and that nurturing, there was that disconnect because my grandmother had never been to college and she had never been to high school. You see what I'm saying? So in that, what she nurtured, what nature she nurtured out of my mother was to come to go and complete something that had never been done. But had like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna encourage you that this is doable because I can only see the people that I think are living affluent lives. And now we realize that affluent shit is just an image. It's not real. Motherfuckers in debt to the eyebrows. But now we see the backside of all of that shit. And a lot of us are that. A lot of us are first or second generation motherfuckers to go to college or whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? Some motherfucking schools didn't actually integrate in segregation until like 10 years ago. There's schools that that segregation ended 10 years ago. Fuck the integration bill that y'all motherfuckers signed in 64. You feel me? We gotta look at where we are right now. But all in all, I'm going to continue to nurture the nature. So I forgot what episode it was. It was definitely one of these last ones that I just did, where I was talking about how the school system is going to make sure that I was saying that if you don't leave the school system hating black people, then if I'm gonna say it like this, if you graduate and you finish the school system and the whole education system, even going up higher, you feel me? And you have honors, you have all of these accolades, you're closer to white supremacy than the person who drops out. Because that's what this design is for. It is to nurture your nature. Now imagine being nurtured into a nature of self-hatred, bro. Every day I get Black History Month where I see we started as slaves, we got hit in the head with bricks, we sat on buses, and we did absolutely nothing. I am nurturing my nature to be docile. Now, here's where that comes in as a problem because women simultaneously will say shit like, I need a man who's going to be a warrior. Where the men at? Where the protectors? Your father wasn't a warrior. Your father wasn't a protector. How do I know? Because the nurture of that warrior nature is gone in them. It's gone in them. You may desire it out of a spouse. You may desire it out of a significant other, whatever the case may be, but it's gone. It's gone in the father figure. It's gone in the previous father because the nurture was already there. The nature was already gone. You nurtured the warrior spirit out of the motherfucker. And if you didn't nurture it out of them, you made them play sports. That's where you put your warrior spirit at. Don't put your warrior spirit to fight. Like, don't even look at your warrior spirit as a battle or a balance between um your. Don't even look at your warrior spirit as your discipline with violence. You gotta warrior to be a warrior means that you're disciplined with violence. Now, violence, they don't want us to be violent. Non-violence, non-violence. That's what Martin Luther King preached, and that's the martyr. That's the symbol of the nurture of how our nature is extinguished. The stronger man is the non-violent man. No, no, no. The non-violent man is the man who understands that violence is your response to danger. Violence is your response to danger. I will not respond to danger non-violently. How the fuck can you? When you say it like that, it makes a lot of sense. But we have been nurtured into responding to danger non-violently because I'm the bigger person. You got me fucked up. I'm going to respond to this violent danger violently and make this danger stop. I say it all the time. Good doesn't triumph over evil until good gets with the shit. Watch any superhero movie. The motherfucker get his ass whooped for the first hour and a half of the movie. It's not until he has his coming to Jesus moment or his moment where he has to go through the dark side and he has to do some shit that he's not gonna like and he fucks up the motherfucking villain. Every time. Villain be washing him the whole fucking movie until he gets evil, until he does some dark shit, until he decides, I gotta go that route. Till he decides that his nature needs to supersede his nurture. The hero, the good guy, the motherfucker who's all, yeah, you're nurtured into some shit like that. You're also nurtured into the bad guy too. But at the end of the day, it's all off of the parenting. It's all off of our parenting. Our parenting model is designed to nurture the nature away. It's never been nurture versus like, and well, now I guess it really does make sense. That's why it's always the battle. Is it nurture versus nature? It is because it's nurture versus nature because the nurture is always going to win when you don't understand the nature. And when you make the nature completely go against itself, you get like when people say, yo, how do you I have people who say, like, yo, you're living your life right now. Like, how did you continue to go? I said, this is who I really am. Like, this is naturally who the fuck I am. Now the profanity might be neutral. I ain't even gonna hold you about that shit. No, it's definitely that's natural too. My mama didn't cuss around me. I didn't cuss until I left home. You feel me? I didn't cuss around my siblings until I was in my 20s. You feel what I'm saying? This is me. I just like cussing. I don't know. Cuss words are so chef's kiss, motherfucker. It's just they hit, bro. They hit. But that's just a part of my nature. And I don't think it's just the profanity. I think it's more so my nature is just to be an authentic person. It's to be allow myself the freedom to be who I am. Because it is my nature and my nurture conflict reality, bro. Sis, all y'all. And I'm sure a lot of us, it does that. We work in jobs we don't like. We graduated from school. Like a lot of us, I've had so many conversations with people over the last few years that been telling me shit like, I feel unfulfilled. Why? I got my degree, I got my job, I got everything that I was looking for, everything that I wanted in life, but I'm I'm still unfulfilled. It's like, what you mean you unfulfilled still? How? Because your nature isn't showing. Because you have been guided into a specific you have been guided into a space that is not beneficial to you. You have been nurtured into a space that serves you no purpose. And now your nature is just this is why we wonder like why are elders so miserable and evil? Because they have been nurtured parentally into losing their nature. And now all of the people that help nurture their nature away are dead and gone. And it's just them. And they have nothing. They have nothing but the accolades and rewards of all of the people that they try to please because of how they were nurtured, how their nature was nurtured. It's cool when you young and you a kid and you getting the awards and you getting applause, everybody hyping you up, you the center of the conversation at the. But then what happens when you get old? And those people that were congratulating you, they're not there anymore. You don't have that anymore. What do you do? Hmm, hmm. What do you do? And what don't you do? That's the real question. Because now we have to always look at when this parent when we're parented, how are we nurtured? Is our nature like do we even know what our nature is? You feel me? Yeah, you can cheat. You can cheat and when your child is born, run their human design, natal chart, all of this other shit. Or just be observant and don't try to be a dictator. Children's nature is open from the jump. When I tell people like your seven chakras are all open when you're born, like all of that shit, it has to be closed over time. Your experiences with your parental structure, it natures your nurture. So it's either going to be you're either going to be shut off, your light is going to be extinguished, or it's going to be enhanced based off of the nurturing. Now you have to realize, are you going to be nurtured correctly? No, no, I'm not saying it in the sense that you might nurture your kid the right way, but no, up until this point, no, until people have identified that this is a systematic thing, it's not going to change. It's not going to stop. It's just not. It's not. You can't, and there's no way that you can get mad at that shit because this is the systematic, parenting. This is the structure. This is what you nurture. So now, when I tell people, like, while there was a time when it was just men working, women, you feel me? And we're not even gonna talk about the equality of that shit because that is really mind blowing to know that we're in a space where black women and white women, you know, black women, white women, and women of color are fighting for the same thing, but they're not fighting for the same thing. You feel what I'm saying? There's never been a time, and I was just seeing this post. Somebody had made it. He made a valid statement. He said, "There's never been a time when black women were not did not not. There's never been a time when black women actually." did not have to work. So this equality shit, this work equal wage and shit, it was never for them. It was never for y'all. It was for we want to work now, so we don't have to go. We don't have to be home. And the motherfuckers tagged along with the shit, but you were nurtured into diluting your motherfucking nature. Didn't even see it. Now, when we look at the feminist movement today, even if, from the feminist movement, a lot of shit changed. A lot of shit happened. When you were already in a fucked up society, we were in a society that had nothing to do with us. We should have just stayed segregated, because even in segregating, women's suffrage. The fuck? How can the women's suffrage movement have suffrage in the shit? You feel me? Because the women's suffrage, they didn't even see y'all as humans. They didn't even see the black women as humans that they were actually leveraging to say, it's like, yo, y'all had to go to work. You feel me? Y'all didn't have to be shunned and denied of y'all had to go to work. It wasn't a luxury for y'all. It wasn't an option. But that nature, they nurtured differently. So now when we look here, the feminist movement, look at what the black woman has been nurtured into. Her nature gone. You have black women right now, respectfully, claiming that they're embracing their sexuality, just being hoes. We got to call it for what it is. Got to call it for what it is. They just out here getting fucked and fucking for nothing, just because they're finally at a space where I'm embracing my sexuality, but I'm doing all of the shit that men do. The very men that I keep calling fuck boys, I say I hate, I say I don't, I'm doing I'm being nurtured. My nature is completely altering right now, and I'm being nurtured into something totally new. That is not me. So much so, look, let me tell you how fucked up the nurture and the nature is, bro. Peep this shit. Black women getting BBLs and black women getting BBLs, getting their bodies done, and getting lip injections and shit to emulate the people that are emulating them. I don't think I think the nurture supersedes the nature at this point. To where it's like when you're looking at it and saying, okay, they're the standard of beauty, but they're chasing you. Everything about them has been chasing the black woman. Like when I looked at those old dresses that they used to wear with the wigs and the curly white wigs and shit, and the old ancient days and the balls and shit, and how the dress flared up in the back so it gives the illusion that they got ass. No, that was an ode to black women. Go figure. So now when we look at when all of the white women and all of them started getting their surgeries and shit, like the Kim K's and getting the butt lifts and shit, they used to laugh at motherfuckers with fat asses and shit. And now the black women with the fat asses and shit are the ones getting the BBLs and shit, enhancing, getting more. It's like, why? Because you're nurtured into a nature that's not you. Now, when I tell people, yo, if you made it through academia and shit, you think like a white person. No, I don't. Nah, you feel like a black person, but you think like a white person. You feel like the oppressed, but you think like the oppressor. And you don't realize it until the feeling comes when somebody dies. You're reminded, oh shit, I'm not them. But then the nurture is so much more powerful when you say, oh, well, they shouldn't have been wearing this. Well, maybe if they were wearing this or they were dressed like this, or maybe, like when you can look and say, okay, this hair is not professional. You yourself internalize that your hair ain't professional because your hair is the nature of who you are makes you feel a type of way. But the nurture gives you a different level of confidence. When people say, I wear protective styles, when women say they wear protective styles or whatever the case may be, what are you really protecting? What nurtured you to let you realize that keeping your hair under wigs and weaves all the time is protective? What is it protecting? Words are powerful. I get it on papers. Oh, I'm protecting the style that I have and the duration of my hair just being washed and done. It's a protection from what? What does your hair need protection from? Sleep? Okay, you can wear a bonnet. The element, okay, what does your hair actually need protection from? You've been nurtured into it. It has to be kept a certain way. It can't be this, it can't be that. Our hair naturally, it grows like plants, bro. However it wants to towards the sun. But we lost that. because our nature is gone. You feel me? Part of the reason why I lost my hair is one, because of all the fucking that I was doing. I didn't know about depletion of nutrients and all of this other. I didn't know about all of that. But then on the other side is because it didn't help that I was using fucking Sporting Wave and Murray's like a motherfucker. All my follicles and shit was they stayed clogged up. So here I am thinking that, oh, this shit is pattern ballish. No, I have been nurtured into diluting the nature on an unconscious level and didn't even know it. You feel me? When I had braids and shit, like my hair was so fucking thick, it was full, it was long as shit, bro. It was like it was amazing. But then once I cut it and I started getting waves and I started actually like tying it down, putting the do-rags on it and, brushing it all the motherfucking time and keeping that wave grease kept up in the motherfucker, it fucked up my entire texture of my hair. It fucked up everything. Because what I didn't know was that this petrolatum, all these things, they were seeping into my skin. They weren't just staying on my hair. They were seeping into my skin. It was fucking up my body. I was like, wow. But I've been nurtured into diluting and dishonoring the nature of myself, as we all have. Everybody's nature, everybody is nurtured against their nature. This is why you look at motherfuckers who when shit gets whitewashed, your nature is gone. The moment you closely align towards the systemic oppression, you gone. That's it. That's it. You feel me? Motherfuckers ain't nurtured correctly, which comes into their parenting. Like, as a parent, you got to be in a space where you got to open up your eyes and say, okay, let me teach my child the right way. It's that simple. It's really that simple for me. Like, and in teaching your child the right way, it's not, you don't have to, okay, I got to put my kid in the best schools. Okay, cool. Whatever you feel the best schools are, but teach them how to keep their nature intact. You feel me? Some of us, our nature is diluted because our nature is very reminiscent of our parents, and our parents know that they can do whatever they wanted to do. You feel me? I'm vocal as shit. You feel me? That's it. Like I have the gift of oration. Like I have the gift of speech. I have a divine ordinance to utter words on a whole different level. You feel what I'm saying? That's my nature. But all through school, they told me I talk too much. You feel me? Monique just did her special. She did her comedy special, and she was in a special education class. Had Monique have never said that shit, you would have never known she was a special education. What defines special education? Was her nature too big where it couldn't be nurtured in the way that, that's because most of the people that I know that was in special education was bad. Your nature doesn't, you can't turn your nature off. Rather than polishing and nurturing it to make you do something different or to give, I'm not, I'm not. I'm just gonna let your nature, I'm just gonna move your nature and make you internalize something about yourself that ain't true. You special education, so you think you're retarded. Because now I'm gonna put you around other kids who have been nurtured to pick on motherfuckers. You feel what I'm saying? Bullies come from home first, then they go to school because they can't beat up who's at home. You dig what I'm saying? They can't beat up who's at home. But who beating them up at home is giving them confidence that they can take on the world. What are you nurtured for? What is your nature nurtured for? These are important pieces. These are the important things that we always got to look at and we always got to consider. Because at the end, beginning, and the middle of the day, what is it that a parenting model is supposed to be? You feel me? For our culture, it's fucked up because it's like when your kids, our parenting structure is largely built off tolerance, right? And you're nurturing your child to only be tolerated and to be abused and to tolerate their abuse under the guise that is love. How did we get to that? How do we get to that? It's because we never left that, because that is how we were nurtured, how our nature was nurtured during slavery. That's why you hear generations. The problem is ain't nobody beating these kids' ass. The problem is this, that, and the third. Everything that they say the problem is why the generation is doing what they doing is because they can't keep the oppression going. These kids nowadays, they not wild, they not crazy, they not out of their motherfucking mind. They're naturally accepting their nature, and there's no one to nurture it for them. There's no one to nurture that. Like the young bulls don't be wilding. Like when I tell people, they be like, you know, boys go in the street, they need to be loved more so they can stay out of the street. It's not the streets we going for love. That's where we're naturally able to be who we're supposed to be. The streets don't nurture us in the negative. The streets don't nurture us against our nature. The streets enhance it. It just so happens to be a dark way. This is why criminals are what they are. Because I know that my nature does not exist in the world. Not naturally anyway. And it has not been refined and I have not been had it nurtured. So when I'm in the streets, it's going to nurture the natural entrepreneur that I am. I'm gonna go sell crack. No, I'm gonna go sell crack, right? The natural chemist that I am, I'm gonna go cook crack. You feel me? Naturally, I'm a scientist. Naturally, I'm a musician. Naturally, I'm all of these things, but the resources are not there for me to exact my be naturally what I am. So my nature cannot be nurtured correctly. Poverty is painful. Poverty is painful as fuck. This is why black people have to be kept out of the resources, why we don't own shit. When you finally own shit, you have the resource to sit and learn and think and nurture your nature better. When I do jam sessions, a lot of people are on some space where they're like, oh, you might be too. I don't do it to I'm not trying to be signed. I'm not trying to do this shit. I do this because I do it. You feel what I'm saying? I'm not still trying to, I don't have rap dreams to where it's like, oh, I'm just now trying to get nah, I already know how potent I was. I already know how potent I am. I already know that half of these motherfuckers can't fuck with me. More than that. But I do it because it's what I want to do. This is my nature. My nature is to speak. Now, with that nature, I nurtured how I speak. I can speak in music. I can speak in podcasts. I can speak however the fuck I want to speak because I was able to nurture the nature of the being that is me. You feel what I'm saying? This is what the parenting model is supposed to be, not dictation of my child is this, you do that. This is why your child comes. This is why our children do the exact opposite. Why do children rebel? Why they don't listen? Why don't you listen? Nobody ever asked that question. We keep asking why the kids don't listen. Why the fuck don't the parents? Because it is not the parents' role to control the baby. It is the parents' role to nurture the nature of that child out. Now, here's the problem with that because now you're not looking at your significant other, you're not even looking at yourself. Do you have internally the nature that you want to be around all the time? When you pick your significant other, do you enjoy their nature or do you enjoy their nurture? Because that's what changes. Because it's like, oh, the mask finally came off. Stop wearing the rose. Infatuation phase only works because motherfuckers can't naturally be themselves. Infatuation phase wears off, it has to wear off because motherfuckers are nurturally responding and they finally, the nurture has reached a point where I don't have to be that anymore. Now my nature starts to show. You give me space to let my nature show. And when my nature shows, I don't like that. Motherfuckers is having babies because they've been nurturally attracted to motherfuckers that their nature's actually conflicted with. And now it's, oh, you got child support here. Like, that's why these systems can work. We know y'all ain't gonna work as parents because nurturally y'all ain't gonna work. Y'all ain't supposed to work because y'all ain't even gonna figure out the nature that keeps relationships together. It's not our nurture that makes relationships work. It's our nature. It's the nature of who we are that makes our relationships work. It's the nurture that's going to make them fail because the nurture is not who you naturally are. So everything in this world is going to, when people are on some nurturally, they hate a specific zodiac sign or whatever the case may be, but it's because naturally you didn't even know who you are. You had an experience with a motherfucker. Now, because your nature was revealed and you had never enhanced your nature or whatever the case may be, you are now conflicting and saying that, yo, it's this person. It's this. No, it's you. It's all you. And when you in a space where you battling between your nurture and your nature, this is what life is for you. I don't make the rules, but this is just how they play out. You feel what I'm saying? A large percent of us, we get married, we have children, we have all of the shit based off of being nurtured, how we were nurtured, and our natures weren't nurtured, right? I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna start wrapping up. When we look at the human design will tell you what your nature is. Fuck what your nurture is, it's what your nature is. And then you realize how much of your nature has been nurtured out of you, right? If you look at when you look at the human design, right, when it gives you your nature very well. For example, my nature is a generator, right? Some people ask me, now I think I mentioned this, you're a manifesting. I'm not a manifesting generator, but I can manifest, right? I can easily slip into becoming a manifesting generator because I want to, because I understand what it is. Nurturally, I can become a manifesting generator. Nurturally, I could be a projector, reflector. I can be a manifester as a whole, but naturally, I'm a generator. And when I'm not naturally operating in my space, I'm going to exhibit a certain behavior. My niece, love of the life, she called me Uncle Grumpy now. she be like, she like Uncle Ray Ray. I'm gonna call him Uncle Grumpy because he just always mean. I'm never mean to her. It's the adults. I'm never mean to them either. I just don't have any tolerance with them when I'm around. I'm always frustrated, and I realize why. I realize why when I go back. I'm like, oh, because I'm a generator and I'm forced to be what I'm not. And when you are whatever you're, the generators, if you walk around in frustration, if everything frustrates you all the time, chances are you might be a generator, because that's the theme of your not self. When you're not being who you are, when you're being what you're nurtured to be, and it conflicts with what you naturally are, you're going to be frustrated all the time. If you are a manifester, I mean, if you are a generator, you're going to be angry as shit if you're a manifester, but you'll be frustrated all the time when you are a generator, right? And you're not living in that space. So as a generator, right? I am supposed to be the one. I'm not supposed to be the one who initiates things, but people are supposed to initiate things. I catalyze and enhance the energy. But when I grow up in a space where I have to be the one who simultaneously, I have to be a manifesting generator, and I'm not a manifesting generator, right? I stay in frustration. I never realized that. I was like, I'm always frustrated, but I was only always frustrated when I could not be my authentic self, when I could not be what my natural design was, what my nature was, only what my nurture was. You feel what I'm saying? I lived a whole life damn near in autopilot, damn near in disconnect because of the fact that, bruh, mm, I'm living in a space that's not even who I am because of how I was nurtured. Now, within this nurturing, I was nurtured to be Christian. I was nurtured to be, a good student. I was nurtured to be I was nurtured to behave very well. You know how hard that is? You know how hard it is to behave very well when your nature says, fuck all of this shit up, burn this bitch to the ground? You feel me? I have in my design, I'm naturally built to fight. Makes sense why I used to, but my violence was nurtured out of me. I was told I don't need to be fighting all the time. I need to think before I do this. I wasn't nurtured into being a fighter. To say, hey, there's a reason when you're supposed to fight. Fight now. Fight, don't fight. Here's when you fight this. Here's when you fight this system, and you figure out different ways to fight certain systems and shit. You dig what I'm saying? These are the breaks. You feel me? These are the things that can easily fuck us up. So now, when we look at now I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna wrap it up for real, because this is the final piece on how they control us. They know our natal charts. They know our human designs. They know everything about us. When we look at our natal chart perspective, we have generational astrology, to where an entire 10-year pocket of time is going to be under this energy. They know how to manipulate that. So now when we know the nature of this energy, we nurture it to our benefit. Late 80s and early 90s babies, I always mention, I always bring it up, have Pluto and Scorpio, two transformative energies, because you're designed to change the world. We know that your nature collectively, if y'all collaborate, is to change the world. So what we're going to do is make y'all compete with each other. We're going to give y'all a grading system to say, hey, you got to make yourself stand out. So now you're not going to collaborate because you're busy competing and staying away from people. You feel what I'm saying? The people that very well you can collaborate with because y'all are competitors could change the world. No, y'all are competing because I want a job. Everybody says they want the world to change, but don't nobody want to work together to make the world change. People want to compete to make the world change instead of just working together. Like, you feel what I'm saying? I want to be the motherfucker who said, I changed the world. I want to be labeled as a Mother Teresa. I want to be labeled as a motherfucker who a Gandhi. All these people are assholes. But I want to be labeled as a Mother Teresa. I want to be labeled as a Gandhi. I want to be labeled as a motherfucker who left. I don't want to get lost in the fact that, yo, we all work together and change this shit. I have to have the name. I have to have the accolade. I have to have all this shit so we can't collaborate. So now I create the system where I'm going to fuck up your nature anyway. I'm going to make you compete against your nature with the nurture that I need you to have. So it's a decade of motherfuckers in this world that literally are supposed to be working together to change the shit, and we can't even get along. We can't even work together. Not on no just basic racist shit, no simple shit like that, but because of the competitive nature of the world. You feel me? Where you have one side, you're in a competitive world. One side has privilege, the other side has to work twice as hard to get half as much, and everybody's caught in the middle of that shit. And there's whoever else is in the middle, right? And everything is about competing and not collaborating. Only my nature can collaborate. My nurture can compete. My nature won't collaborate. My nature will collaborate because it's like, I know who I am. I know what piece of the puzzle I fit in. Rather than competing with each other and always saying, yeah, I'm supposed to be like, they knew what the fuck they was doing. They knew what the fuck they was doing. They've been knowing what the fuck they doing. They know the epochs of time for every generation. They know what to infuse with them. They know what drugs to put out. You feel me? They know what TV, what shows. They know all of this shit that they need to put out to control a certain generation the way they need them to control them, the way they need them to be controlled. Because we know how to nurture you. Like, so now, when people say I was born homosexual, were you born that or were you nurtured into that? Because I get it, you could be gay for as long as you were, but were you nurtured into that environment? Were you provided an environment that nurtured that? You feel what I'm saying? The shit can't be your nature. You feel me? Because by that same, like, nobody's born straight. Nobody can be born gay. Like, you feel me? It's nurturing. Now, this is not me on both sides saying that was because, cosmically, the creation is the creation. But at the end of the day, nobody's born with the mentality of any of the shit. You have to be nurtured into that mentality. But most times the nurture conflicts with our nature, and it's all derived from how we're parented. You feel me? People will go to church and shit, and they'll be like, it's crazy how the church makes the homosexuals they condemn. The church makes more homosexuals than anything. And it's the very homosexuals they condemn. You have the pedophilia in the church where the people are getting touched, molested, and all of this other shit off of one level. You feel me? You have constantly being told, boys, stay away from girls. Well, what the fuck we're supposed to be doing? So now when you're going through your developmental milestones, now you're around men all the fucking time. You're nurturing into the shit. That's why I tell people there's 3 types of men and there's like 3 types of women. You have homosexual men who like vagina, homosexual men who don't like vagina, and then you have heterosexuals. You have homosexual women who like dick. You have homosexual women who don't like dick, and then you have heterosexuals because of the nurturing. Most people are programmed. The programming is designed to make you the homosexual who likes the opposite sex. And that's what you call straight. But it's not. You feel what I'm saying? This is why it's easy to cheat. This is why, and then that's why it's easy to promote this is why sex can sell so easily. Because it's all about the nurturing, not the nature of the being. Because if we actually look at the nature of our being, the natural nature of a child is thinking far beyond what their sexual orientation is. The nature of a child is thinking far beyond their sexual orientation. What the nature of a child is thinking about is how well I can contribute to this world. But the nurture of the parent reduces the child to only think that when it's all said and done, I need to get a good job and have babies. Ain't that a bitch? And don't forget to check out Cafe Clothing, formerly Just Scenes merch. Get all of your intricate designs crafted specifically for the melanated being to develop a positive imagery within self and to have a little bit of fun in the process. From the peace, love, knowledge, and freedom to the dead horses and water designs, all of the styles are crafted for the imagery to make you feel as you're supposed to feel. Because as I always say, the best way to fit in is to stand out. And what better way to stand out than with your exclusive styles from Paula Cafe Clothing. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. I like the way this went. Yeah, I know. See, I thought you was gonna talk about being good and bad parents because you ain't got kids. I ain't gotta have kids, bitch. I can see the fucking reality. There is no nurture versus nature. There's nurture to nature. There's nurture the nature. Your nature will never change. Your nature will never change. But when you want somebody, but when you have your nature nurtured, you controlled. Learning to nurture your nature is how you control yourself. Having your nature nurtured is how you are controlled. That is a deity's will. I don't like that. This should be evident enough of the purpose of religion is designed to nurture your nature out of you. Like logically, nobody will fuck with a religion if they didn't fear hell. Motherfuckers don't even believe in a deity. They fear hell. They fear the aftermath, and they have been nurtured into believing that is a real place. One thing that I've learned, this is what helped me get rid of it, because it's like my nature tells me I'm more than this physical flesh. My nurture tells me my physical flesh will burn in an eternal fire. Nigga, what? When I die, this body stay here. So how the fuck would fire even hurt? Interesting. Because you've been nurtured, your nature has been nurtured out of you. Everybody I know when I come to them information, well, I'd rather live like it is real than find out that it's not. So I don't go to hell. Not because I actually want to meet the deity, not because I love and trust the deity. I don't want to go to hell. I'm nurtured into going against myself. Because now, like I said, we naturally, your nature is going to be beneficial and detrimental, just depending on who who is there. You're not going to be good to everybody. You're not going to be bad to everybody. You're going to be whatever you need to be, whatever experience catalyzed out of that situation. You feel me? When people be like, oh, this person left their mother and all of that shit, like, okay, cool. You catalyze the situation with that motherfucker. Like, y'all knew that y'all weren't supposed to have babies anyway. Y'all nature told y'all not to fuck with each other, but your nurture said, I'm going to look past it. Red flags are violations of your nature. That's it. Red flags are violations of your nature. They have nothing to do with the other person. When red flags show up in your life because you are violating your nature, boom, but you've been parented into doing so. I know. Why you ain't say this at the beginning? Why you wait for the end to always say the good shit? Because you got to let it flow. Green flags are when you acknowledge and you honor your nature. You see on social media will literally tell you what red flags are in a relationship. What? And y'all are nurtured into believing them. Ooh, a person with bad communication skills, a person who just shut down, that don't talk all of this shit. They let you tell, they define what your red flags are for you. And your red flags are when your nature is conflicted with. I don't have an issue with motherfuckers who don't communicate well. I don't. And I never like people like, oh, that's a red flag. If you can't articulate yourself, you can't. I don't, because I can understand what the fuck you saying. So my nature, naturally, people can say less and I can hear everything. You feel me? Then there's motherfuckers who can talk and I don't hear shit. But you feel what I'm saying? Is because my nature allows me to do things that my nurture doesn't. Right. But like I said, we got whole motherfucking platforms talking about what a red flag is in a man, what a red flag is in a woman. No, a red flag is when you are violating your own nature. You're always going to run into red flags because you now have a type rather than your attraction. Your type is a part of your nurture because people have told you this is what type of man or woman you need to be with. Get with this person, and you violating what you naturally feel. So now when you cheat on a motherfucker, you like, this person makes me feel alive. They honored your fucking nature. It's not hard, but it's hard when you can't really see. They don't want you to see this shit. They don't want you to look and say, hey, this is what it is. This is why marriages work. This is why marriages work and don't work. It's motherfuckers trying to spend the rest of their life over each other and they're not their nature. You changed. No, I finally got comfortable and now my nature can show. Now my nature is in conflict with you. This is why I put my nature on display. I'm gonna talk shit. If you don't want to have this motherfucker right here around your family. Don't even shoot your shot. Don't come to don't like no. If you don't want this motherfucker right here to show up at your family function, now don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna be wild or do no other shit like that. But this is me right now. You're catching me in my most raw, comfortable, vulnerable space. This is the space that I project all the time because this is my nature. This is my nature. This is in my nurture. I don't have to fight to do this anymore. So I don't fight to do this anymore. So I won't fight to do this. I do not behave. Behaving it conflicts with my nature. You feel me? I tell people all the time, I live how I want, not how I should. Just be glad that how I want to live is it happens to be how I should. I said that in like 2012, 2013. I was doing a song called What Ifs and No Wills. You feel me? And in that's why I said that shit. I don't behave no more. Behavior is a form of nurturing, but it's nurturing the nature out of me. Children are to be seen, not heard. And you wonder why kids show off. You didn't hear me, but you seen me. Because you nurture it into them. Their nature may have been a laid back, cool, calm motherfucker. But now they not. Like motherfuckers, I'm not an introvert, I'm an extrovert. No, your nature is constantly violated and you're not comfortable in that space. You're not an introvert because that's what get me. People like, yo, I'm introvert when I need to be, extrovert when I need to be. If you can change, that means there's a duality within you. You're dishonoring one side. Simple. You feel what I'm saying? When it's all said and done, and I look at this world from the bigger perspective, and you look at the world from the big perspective, you have to ask yourself, when it's all said and done, did you give the world your nature or your nurture? If you gave the world your nurture, you failed, and you're gonna have to come back again. I know I mentioned it at the beginning. That's what God's will is. God, Allah, Jehovah, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Yeshua, whatever you want to call it, that's the will for you to live according to your nature, not your nurture. According to your nature is the only way you hear God speak. Allah, Jehovah, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, whatever. Your nurture, that's the delusion. You've been nurtured to hear that I got to follow this path. So you follow what makes everybody else feel comfortable. When everybody, oh, yep, that's what you're supposed to be doing. You know you can be successful. You're successful at anything you're encouraged in. It's not like a divine ordinance or like you're only going to be successful in the things in life that you're designed. Like what's for you, it's bullshit. What's for you is what's for you, because what's for you is what you choose to put your nature in to make it for you. So literally anything in this world you can be. That's why. But you cannot be anything in this world according to your nurture, only your nature. When we look at people that are 100% successful, and they're like, yo, it looks like you can't lose. I'm living according to my nature. But when I try to honor my nurture, it violates. I'm going to say this for real, and I'm going to really wrap it up. When it comes to mastering the market and inflate with inflation, I violated so many different realities. And I violated those realities because when I first started marketing and I was catering to nurtured people who were nurtured into quote unquote not, wanting to be broke or whatever the case may be, or just wanting to get out of poverty. I did not fuck with people with the nature to understand the arts. Dumbest decision of my life because I didn't know. I'm sitting here trying to teach people who don't have the nature to learn. They only have the nurture to get some money, to have an extra source of income. I can't teach that. You'll never learn. You'll never hear me. You'll never be able to understand what I'm saying. And that fucks with me as a teacher because now I can't even cater to the people that are here for nature. I got to cater to the motherfucker who's here because of the nurture. Now I got to nurture you when I don't even know what your nature is. Your nature is not a learner. So why am I trying to teach you? Hard reality that I had to learn, but I learned that motherfucker and I started to realize my nature. When you when your nurture starts to conflict with certain realities, this is when you have to, like, I was talking to somebody, it was like, they told me you might want to drop the price on your course because people, they might not be able to afford it or whatever the case may be. And I was like, it bothered me at first because I was like, damn, you might be right. Maybe I am charging too much or whatever the case may be. And I was like, I'm not. Now I could put words to actually why I'm not charging too much. Because at first it sounded like ego. I said, I'm not charging too motherfucking much. I put in a lot of work in this motherfucker. It's like, no, the nature I put into this motherfucker is the nature that I'm reflecting. So the price that I set is the price that is required for you to have the necessary nature to enter this space. Anybody that's in the course that's doing successful, anybody that's in the EWE career, like anybody who's involved in the shit, who is having the successes, are the people who put 399 in or above because they had the nature to make the investment in themselves. I don't have to teach them hard. I don't have to struggle to teach them. But the people who caught the discounts, the people who caught the deals, the people who caught this, like, and they don't finish and they're looking like, you didn't have the nature to learn. You had the nurture to make some money. You were nurtured to always make. That's why you don't know how to get it and keep it. Because you don't know the nature of what it takes for you to make some motherfucking money. You feel what I'm saying? What is your nature? When you find your nature, live it. Nurture your nature. There's gonna be, like, Derek Grace. He started one of his branded hashtags. It was you got to unlearn and relearn. Same shit. You got to realize that I was nurtured into some shit that conflicted with my nature, which also means these motivational speakers, these people that, like, make sure they're not encouraging you to get involved with some shit that's conflicted with your nature. That happened to me when I first started business and entrepreneurship. I was in an MLM. These motherfuckers got me for my last band, my last 1,000, and I had rent to pay. I don't know how I let these niggas convince me for that, but I ended up, because first we went to this thing called Utopia, whatever the case may be, right? So Utopia, it took us on a boat. We, getting leads and shit. But it's like, on that boat, all you're gonna do is call people and tell them about the business, tell them you here and shit, trying to recruit motherfuckers and shit. That's not in my nature. I never realized why I was failing in that shit because it's not in my nature. I'm thinking I'm failing in it because, as they say, oh, well, business is hard as this. No, that's not my nature. When I was in these events and I'm at the front and I see the people at the front making more than me and I know more than them, this is not my nature. This is too small for me. I had to realize that my nature is bigger than this, right? When I couldn't change rules and I couldn't change scripts and shit, my nature is bigger than this. I see what it is. My nature is not there, but nurturally, you I so now when you in these motherfuckers and they nurture you into believing that you can do this shit, you'll never be successful if it still conflicts with your nature. This is for all of them. The Forex MLMs, they played on y'all because y'all didn't have the nature for, like, all of this shit. It played onto it. You're going to fail if it is not in your nature to do. That's what people don't pay attention to failing. And I think I should have put that. I might do a revised version of So Frail 3 where I add this into it because I'm just seeing the connecting piece right now. The nature of the person, your nature, going through the tree of life, that's when you tapping into your nature. Unlocking your chakras is reviving your nature. That's it. That's it. I know we look at it as some mystical shit. Oh, my root chakras unblocked because it is. No, no, no. When you tap into your nature again, all of your chakras realign. Because each chakra energy, the root chakra being about your foundation, your sacral chakra being about your emotions and sexuality, your solar plexus being about your personal identity, your heart chakra being about your love and hate, your throat chakra being about how you communicate, your brow chakra being about your vision, your inner vision, and then your crown chakra being about your Mashiach energy. When you are fully your divine nature, all of these are open. It is when you are in your nurture that is fucked up because now are you nurtured correctly? No. off rip, spirituality does not connect with religion, but off rip from birth, we taught to denote our religion. So our spiritual component, the nature of our spiritual side is already nurtured away. Naturally, we might have one of the other 7 intelligences, but yet we're nurtured into logic. Our mental nature is fucked up. Now, what you think our physical nature is going to be? They literally tell us how to work out, but yet everybody has different body types. You have mesomorphs, ectomorphs, and endomorphs. You have mesomorphs, which are the people that are in the middle. Those are the people who just look like, oh, your body's just naturally good. You don't have to do much because they're mesomorphs. They have an even balance of metabolism, catabolism, anabolism, and they work out. That's a mesomorph. It's motherfuckers that are endomorphs trying to work out like ectomorphs and mad that they can't lose weight because you're violating your fucking nature because of the nurture. Nurture gives us this universality of, hey, everybody can do the same workout. No, technically, nobody should be lifting weights. Nobody should be lifting heavy. But they teach us to do that. They nurtured us into do that shit, and they wonder why our bodies get fucked up. Because you're not supposed to work your muscles. You're supposed to work your joints. I know. I'm going to have to do a podcast episode on that. Something I just came to terms with, because when you work the muscles, you want to use the flexion and extension. What that does is it strengthens the muscles, and this is why they're so fucked up. It strengthens the muscles to the point where it pulls the muscles closer together across the joints. The joints are supposed to have, it's called synovial fluid. There's supposed to be enough room to make your joints move, but our joints are rubbing together. Why are our joints rubbing together? Oh, because we're getting old. It's old age. No, it's because of the way you work out. You work out in a way that only uses the two planes of your physical body. You're using flexion and extension. You're not using rotation. You'll get far more out of your workout with rotation than you will with flexion and extension. You feel what I'm saying? But when we only do flexion and extension, what happens is we have tendons, ligaments, and tendons and ligaments that connect. Let me slow down. The tendons connect bone to bone. The ligaments connect muscle to bone. All right. So now, when these tendons that connect bone to bone are now shortening because of the way in which we're working out, and we're not lengthening them to make them, where do you think all your joints issues come from? Now, go to your joint area, right? What are the biggest things that you have? You have carpal tunnel. That is when you constantly contract. Carpal tunnel comes from what? You constantly contracting your fist in a writing position, which makes the wrist muscles of the hand, the muscles of the hand and the muscles of the wrist are pulling together, and it closes the tunnel which your carpal is in. It's the metacarpals. Carpals are hand bones, right? You also have when your MCL, ACL, and like those are supposed to be able to move. The reason why they tear is because there's not enough length in them when you move too much. You feel what I'm saying? D Rose was one of the perfect examples of that because he fucked up his knees because he had explosive power. Why? Because his leg muscles were strong as fuck, but his joints were weak because the leg muscles were constantly bringing the joints together. Same with the neck, same with the spine. Everywhere you have joints, your sacroiliac joints, every joint you have is supposed to be mobile, but we don't move them. Our nurture violates our nature, and we don't know what our nature is supposed to be no more. That's mentally, physically, and spiritually. They have nurtured us into doing something. You really think this education system, when you go to the gym, physical education, they teach you how to work out. You ever notice they teach you to do sit-ups, but they don't teach you to work your lower back? They teach you to work your abs, but not your back, and your whole core area works together. And we wonder why motherfuckers work their chest and their abs, and then when they get motherfuckers that was big as shit when they was young, they was kids on D's and shit, now they got hunchbacks and they lost like 5 inches of height. Why? Because you didn't work your muscles the right way. You worked your muscles in a way that's beneficial. So now when you go to the pharmacies and you go to all of these motherfucking places and you see the shoulder braces and all of this shit, all of these things are showing you that your muscles, your joints are supposed to be stronger than they are. But since they're not, we're going to provide the strength. Ankle braces, knee braces, hip replacements, everywhere that it's, I'm going to go ahead and end it there, bro. Because we know what you're nurtured into now, because this has turned into a whole nother episode. Go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. And you can parent however the fuck you want to parent, but I'm gonna let you know right now, the core of parenting is to nurture the nature of the child. How you nurture that nature, you either gonna nurture the nature into them or nurture the nature out of them. But that child, it will be reflected when they get older. If you nurture the nature out of your child, chances are they're not gonna come home much. They're not gonna fuck with you a lot, and it's gonna be only for holidays when you see your kids. which is pretty much how the American system works right now. We're home for the holidays. Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays. They get but yo, if you nurture your nature out of your kids, if you nurture the nature out of your children, you're only gonna, you know what I mean? There's gonna be some resentment there. You nurture the nature that is in them. It might be some resentment in you if you never lived your life, but you nurture the nature in them, you'll see a very happy, productive child. But it's going to be hard to deal with when you realize that you're nurturing their nature and sending them to the school system to nurture the nature out of them. Your nurturing has to be that much more potent than the schools. So that way they're able to go into the school, be in the world, not of the world, and come the fuck back home and still have their nature intact. Some of us can't do that shit. We portray so much. We got a code switch. We got to do all our nature is constantly violated. I would be fired off the first day if I talk like this on the job. Ain't no ifs, ands, or maybes about it. I have to put the professional shit on. You feel what I'm saying? Because the nurture is there. You feel me? The nurture for the nature is there. We got to make sure we're not nurturing our nature, the nature out of our babies. Because they're individuals and they have a mission to complete in this world. Now, imagine this. Everybody has an individual mission to complete in this world. Imagine you nurture the nature out of a child and they can't complete their mission. I don't give a fuck about how good you may think you have been on a parent. If you nurtured the nature out of a child who was supposed to complete the mission that was supposed to change the world, you're going to have to answer to the universe for that. You're going to have to answer to the universe for that. This is why it makes shit so much worse on a bigger scale. Because people are nurtured into getting abortions. People are nurtured into certain things. People are nurtured into having unprotected sex. People are nurtured into walking out. Like when we understand why our men leave the home is because, again, it ties back into the nurturing. He already seen it done. But it was, he got sold off. We didn't know he got sold off. We just know the motherfucker left. A lot of times when the father got sold off from the family, he left. But it wasn't when the child. It wasn't like he had to be moved into shackles and shit like that. No, somebody bought him. They came and picked him up and took him out. He never came home. He never came back. That became the normalcy. This is the nurture. Now it goes back in what I was saying with that father-son, that mother-daughter dynamic, mother-son dynamic. I mean, y'all, this is 500 years of shit. And we still succumbing to it today. We got to stop, right? Learn to see the nature of your child and nurture that in them and make them the best. Like I promise you, yo, parenting ain't hard. It's really that simple. But when you have to make them fit within the system to get a good job, good education, all this shit, you have to nurture them according to a way that's going to violate their nature. And they'll hate themselves for it because they'll naturally think that they're okay, but they're wrong. They're conflicting with their entire reality. Now they're having a poor self-image of self when it's not yourself that you have an image with. It is the projection of what somebody put on you through your nature. Stop that with our babies, and we can stop a lot of the mental shit that's going with them. So this is long, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. Go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables, and I'm gonna see y'all all on the next one. Peace, love, knowledge, freedom. I'm out.